Hello, Sophia.
Hi, George.
How nice to have you here.
It's fantastic. It's great to be here.
We need to inform the listeners that we have been planning this interview since March, since the beginning of the lockdown. But due to different circumstances and a lot of commitments, mostly from your end, which is highly respected and understandable, we are having this interview in the beginning of May. But I must say that I love this twist of fortune. And because now, after, in a way, let's hope that we're coming to the end, or maybe we see the light in the end of the tunnel, maybe this interview has a different perspective. And maybe today you can tell us more. So welcome to Teachers Coffee. My first question would be a general one. How are you perceiving this situation as an individual and as an educator, even now that it comes towards the end?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. And as you say, it may be for the better that we have this chat, this conversation now, because we are now past the first emergency phase, and we can reflect on things and see them from a different perspective, which is fantastic. So, as an overview, I think it's been an extremely stressful period for everyone, but at the same time, amazing things happened. Teachers and all the ELT community showed a lot of cooperation and mutual support, and this is something we should be proud of.
Excellent. I forgot to mention in the introduction, but our listeners need to know about you, need to know more about you. You are a lecturer at the Montfort University. And also, you have another title, which I think is going to be really useful and contribute a lot to this conversation. You are a digital specialist, right? A specialist on digital online teaching.
Learning. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. Now, using this perspective of the specialist, what do you think about online teaching during the COVID period? Maybe you can give us an overview, and maybe you can tell us about what do you think is going to happen in the future, generally regarding online teaching.
Okay, so I think we need to recognize that teachers had to dive in uncharted waters to respond to this crisis. So I'm carrying out research into language teaching experiences moving online. So about 1,000 teachers have taken the survey, and quite unsurprisingly, more than 80% of them had never taught online before. This is something that I knew already because I teach at the university. I see my colleagues, I see the situation, and I'm also a teacher trainer. So in a way, I know the situation, but this research informed me more. So what is particularly interesting is that according to what the teachers said, because my research is on how teachers perceive the situation, how they experience the situation. So the teachers said that only around 7% received substantial training via their institution, while around 15%, 1/5, didn't receive any training, and 50% organized their training by themselves via webinars, publications offered freely, by experts, organizations, publishers, including Express Publishing. I know you had Russell and many others, which is fantastic. So this is great. It's great to see this generous support within our community. But we need to make a distinction between online teaching as we know it in the field of educational technology and the model that we've been experiencing during COVID-19, which was a response to a crisis, really. So in normal circumstances, online courses will be developed by a team of experts, and academics and teachers are part of this team because they offer valuable insights. But It is the instructional designers and the educational technologists who will design the course and set it up online. It won't be the teachers. And these people will train the teachers and support them. And of course, they will also usually have a very valuable resource, time to design, time to improve the course, time to check it, double check it. So it would be unfair to make any comparison with what teachers have been asked to do and are still doing during COVID-19. And that's why this model has been called emergency remote teaching, this model or approach, if you like. So there is a distinction between the two, between online teaching as we know it and emergency remote teaching. So the good news is that teachers achieved amazing things. And at least those who took my survey said that they are happy and proud of themselves, which is fantastic. But at the same time, there are issues that cannot be ignored. Teachers are concerned about what seems to be the new normal. They say that their workload is increasing and that the expectations are increasing. And they say that there is pressure to deliver lessons of a certain standard. Remember, 80% had never taught online before and did not receive formal training. So there is pressure to design assessment, something that they have never done before online. At the same time, they have to train their students to learn online because it is a myth that students are familiar with online learning. Also, some students don't have proper internet or devices. So there are all sorts of issues for teachers to deal with. And many of them are parents of young children as well. So they also need to support their kids with homeschooling. So teachers have been asked to build the plane while they're flying it, really. And it seems to me that this is not sustainable. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, because, okay, I said, I mentioned quite a few things here, but this is how I assess the situation. And I would say there are many positives that we should be celebrating, but we should also think about how we can make the situation more sustainable for the teachers and for the students.
I think my question was fully answered, and thank you very much for sharing the results of your survey, because you have a sample of 1,000 people. I can confirm, without having any data or without conducting any survey, that the general vibe that I receive on Facebook after all these days online, I think it is reflected on the results of your research. That's exactly the reality today after around 2 months of online teaching. And we must acknowledge that, maybe online teaching is here to stay, and we need to cope with the problems that you mentioned, with this new reality. And I don't think there is any other remedy apart from constant training, being there, actually doing it.
Exactly.
And this is now my next question. I'm going to quote from you because you sent us a message to Teachers Coffee in the beginning of this period, the COVID-19. And, there's this phrase stuck on my mind: it doesn't have to be perfect. And you were referring to online teaching. So if we are to become more specific and to give some tips to the teachers that actually performing it right now, online teaching, what would that be from the expert? I'm not looking for a long answer here. Just a few tips that you would give, even if this has to do with the way they perceive all this or their mentality, not necessarily technical tips.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, I did say that. Emergency, I remember it. Emergency remote teaching doesn't need to be perfect, it needs to be done. And that's because there is no such thing as perfect when it comes to setting up a course in a week. So, but we are past this phase now, and we have learned so much. And I think it's a good time to step back and think about the future, as you very well said, because I know that it's the end of the lockdown for Greece and other countries, sadly not the UK yet, but we don't really know how the situation will unfold and what's going to happen in September. So I think that we need to be pedagogically alert and flexible and proactive regarding what's going to happen when schools open in September. So this is my advice regarding online teaching. May I add something else?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So I would say blend your teaching modes, synchronous and asynchronous, when you teach online, because I understand that we started with the more emphasis on the synchronous, and I totally understand that. But now that this first phase passed, I think we need to also give asynchronous instruction the attention that it deserves, because live classes are fantastic for social presence, but let's face it, they are predominantly teacher-centered. And that's why we need the asynchronous bit, which can be more student-centered. And it is where the student will become more autonomous. But just to clarify here, because it needs to be said, asynchronous learning doesn't mean learning in isolation. It needs teacher presence as well, teacher support, interaction with peers. It is only not at the same time. So for the asynchronous classroom, my advice to teachers would be to make their teaching and materials as interactive as possible. Even a simple PDF or a coursebook exercise can be made interactive. If you break it up in chunks, if you ask students to reflect, if you ask questions. At the same time, try to keep a balance between digital and print materials. And this is because to read online, we need a new set of digital literacies. And I'm not talking about reading for pleasure here. I'm talking about reading for learning. So you need to interact with the text, you need to annotate it, you need to curate content. So it's not that simple. And for online teaching, I would say mix and match. If you have a paper course book, for example, keep it and combine it with digital materials, especially for young learners who are now developing important, very important cognitive skills. Ask them to write by hand, ask them to type as well. So learning online doesn't mean we should necessarily go all digital. In fact, we shouldn't, especially if we teach young learners or teenagers.
Excellent point, and thank you, because maybe it's the first time that we have a digital expert encouraging, in a way, non-digital resources while you are delivering the digital lesson, which is fantastic, excellent. And talking about books, I think we are at the final stage. We have announced it already. Some months ago. During the COVID, we had a little bit of delays, but there is a coming out book right now by Express Publishing with you and Daniel Xerri as co-author on 21st century skills. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that and inform the listeners about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very, very exciting project. First, because the theme is fantastic, English for 21st century skills. And second, because it was a joint effort between my co-editor, Daniel Xerri, and myself, you, the Express Publishing family, and an amazing group of educators who have contributed chapters. So essentially, we look at how 21st century skills can be integrated in the language classroom. It is not just about the 4 C's, and I say just about doesn't mean that they are not important. They are very, very important. The 4 C's, creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, but also other important skills and competencies such as leadership, digital literacies, well-being, inclusion, visual literacy. So we believe that the language classroom is an ideal place to teach these skills because teaching a language is much more than teaching structures and vocabulary. Language is culture. It is identity. It reflects the world that we live in. And the world that we live in, I think we will all agree, presents us with both opportunities but also challenges. And of course, the COVID-19 is one of the challenges, but it is not the only one. So the book talks about how we can adapt to change in creative ways, how we can be globally competent, global citizens of the world, how to use technology productively, but also be able to deal with the issues that are associated with technology, such as information overload, for example, fake news, privacy. And at the same time, there are many other issues that we cannot ignore, many inequalities, divisions, well-being and environmental issues. So the 21st century classroom needs to be inclusive and to prepare students to respond to these challenges. So with Daniel and all the contributors, we take a holistic approach to 21st century skills, and we position language education very highly. So for educators who share our vision, the book will be a very useful tool. Yeah. So shall I talk a little bit about the contributors?
Absolutely. Yeah. Be my guest.
Okay. So we are very lucky to have David Crystal, Sugata Mitra, David Noonan, Penny Nikki Hockley, Michael Carrier, Sarah Mercer, Auntie Hockley, Kieran Donaghy. I don't want to miss anyone because they are all important. So can I show you the table of contents, perhaps?
Please, yeah, of course, of course.
Okay. So let's see. Table of contents. That's it.
This is going to be the absolute perfect teaser for our listeners. Oh my! Here we go.
Okay, so here we go. Michael Carrier, Nikki Hockley, Sugata Mitra, with an amazing title, The End of Knowing. Introduction by Daniel and myself, David Noonan, Penny Olga Milosevic, Graziella Alcini, Magdalena Brzezinska, Christina Ferrugia. I'm not going to read the titles, but readers, viewers can see them. Alan Marsh, Chris Wocklett, Agnieszka Dadzik and Agnieszka Jessio, Pamela Borg, Karen McRae, Carol Samlel, and then is part 2, the skills I was referring to earlier. Kieran Donaghy, myself, Marisa Kostadinilis, yes, Suzanne Galante, Sonia, Gabriel, Daniel, Andy, Sarah, Agelos Bolas, and Verinda, and of course the ever amazing David Crystal. So I will stop the sharing now. So it's been a real pleasure and an honor to work on this project, and a big thanks to you personally, because you believed in this project from the very beginning.
The pleasure was all ours, and as a prospective reader, I can't wait. Actually, it's not only me. Since the teaser went out, I think it was before December, everyone is calling us and messaging us about this book. So yeah, I think it's going to be a bestseller as well. And from the contents and the contributors, I'm sure, it's going to be a hit. Sophia, a message of encouragement, last words for today from you to all the global teachers community.
Okay, so I think teachers proved once again how amazing they are and how resilient they are. I think now it's a good time to step back and think about what you have learned and where you want to go. And I think it is very important to not forget to take good care of yourselves, because your well-being matters. You matter a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I have no words to thank you for this interview. I wish you all the best. Continuation of your excellent work there, and hope to see you soon, in a conference or here in your mother country.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Really, I can't wait. Thank you, George. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.